Welcome to TechCharades. My name is DJ. For the next 20 minutes, we are going to learn about Node.js and REST API with the help of MongoDB as a database server. So, what is Node.js? Node.js is a server-side framework that runs on JavaScript. So, why Node.js? Because first of all, it is in JavaScript, so it is a great benefit for the front-end developers who have just written. Oh, sorry, I got the mic. Okay, for the front-end developers, uh, it is a part of main stack. Main is M for Mongo, E for Express, A for Angular, that is optional, and N for Node.js. So the features of Node.js are like first of all, it is asynchronous. What is asynchronous? As you may know, if not, the requests that are coming to the server, those are handled right away, regardless of the previous request has been completed or not. So whenever the response is ready, it is sent to the client right away. Second thing is it is in JavaScript. I have already told. Third thing to note here is it runs in single thread. It does not run multiple threads, unlike other PHP or ASP or Java programs. So how does it do these things asynchronously in one thread? It has some concept of event loops. Event loop for here, it's like internal process that handles the call stacks and the something else. There is architect that we should not discuss in this tutorial. So for this we can just understand it is a process of traversing the different phases those are running in the application to know which function has to call and when to send response when it is ready. So I think we can start coding and we can start learning the Node.js REST API CRUD operations.
So let's start. If you have not already installed Node.js, you can follow this link nodejs.org download. You can download for any of the operating systems. For this we are going to use Windows installer. And it's time to start coding. Just create a new directory node_API for the REST API project that we are going to learn here. Open it in your favorite editor. I am going to use Visual Code since it is very much compatible and integrated with a lot of plugins for the Node. So first of all, we need to create a file, a package.json. It includes all the dependencies that are required for the node to run the application. You can see it has a JSON structure and dependencies are body parser, Express and MongoDB. We'll come to it later on. Next, we'll create a server file, the main file that actually starts your server and keeps listening. In this file, where we mention the port number and we initialize the server. Before that, we should install packages those are required via the npm. So what is npm? Npm is Node Package Manager. So it is like a library from where you can download and install the APIs or dependencies. So all those dependencies like we had mentioned for Mongo, Express, Body Parser and other internal required packages for Node to run properly will be downloaded and installed. So it downloads it from the npm. Based on your internet, it may be fast. So once these packages are downloaded, a new folder will be created there in your root directory for the project. Yes, the folder name will be node_modules. And after the modules are downloaded, it will auto-generate a file package.json.lock. So it basically locks the latest updates. Once the package.json file is changed, it will not update or install all the previous that are already there in log file. So package log.json, sorry. So yeah, you can see so many internal libraries as well as the ones we needed them are installed. So let's write our first line. Const express require express. So what is require here? Require actually imports the packages or modules. Those are defined in some express here that we just downloaded. And once Express is a server framework that is used for Node. If you have heard about mean stack, so mean, MEAN, E stands for Express for here. So like for Java we have Apache Tomcat, for PHP we have Apache Server. For this we have Express. So app is like Express application that we have initialized. It has a method app.listen on a port number which will require the handler. So this is a latest way of writing your callbacks, ECMAScript. So once you are not passing any parameter for the handler, just writing the console log server listening at port number 8081. You can specify your own port number. It can be 80. So let's just run this application. It will not do anything for the client. It will just a log in the console. As you can see, server listening on port number 8081. If you go to the local host or the browser, it will not say anything because we have not defined the endpoints. We have not defined the URLs, and in these terms, we have not defined any routes so far. So here comes the scenario of routes. So what are routes? Routes are basically the URLs that are used by the client. A client can be a browser, a mobile application, or API consumer. Home route or index route, we can say when it's default, when nothing is typed after the domain name. We just write app.get. What is get? Get is an HTTP method. If you are aware, get, post, put, delete. So if you write app.get on slash, slash is the route, and then to give a callback handler. So if a browser or a client hits this API URL without any further URLs, like it will send the request and response parameters in the callback. So REQ is request, RES is response. For now we are just going to write a console and send a response, a simple string response, so that we know the route is working. So console will be printed on the server side, and response.send will be the response that is taken by the client. So let's head back. Okay, it's starting. Okay, so great. We are getting a response on the browser. Hello people. Hope you are getting this point. Now, similar to get, we have post method as well, or put, delete. So for now, you might have guessed app.post, and the same parameters. A handler means a path, the URL, and then the handler. Handler will take two parameters, request and response. Then you define that function, callback function, what to do when something is posted on this URL. We simply write again response.send posting nodes. So nodes is like a simple entity we are going to use for this REST API. So when you try this URL, it will say cannot get because we have defined it as post. So let's write post. For this you can use Postman from Chrome. I'm using rested in Firefox. You can use curl as well. I think for the routes we need to restart the server. Node daemon is not helping here. We can check it later. So posting nodes. Now let's just copy this method for the put or delete. For deleting, we need a parameter, query parameter, the ID of node, and rest of the function remains same. We can change the response, delete nodes. This is just default. We are just trying to understand all the routes and their methods. So we'll just simply putting the responses in a string format for now, putting a note, delete 404. Why? Sorry, I used need to pass nary again. Oops, there we need to add a slash before ID. Forgot that, sorry. So let's restart and let's try again. Okay, deleting node. Let's try putting a note. Great. So you have got the idea of routing and simple app initialization for the Express in Node.js. In the next step, we'll deal with the real data with the help of MongoDB. To check to check the actual REST API with the CRUD operations. Okay, before we go to MongoDB, let's just modularize this code. We can separate the routes into a new file. As you can see, I have created a folder app, routes, index.js and node route.js. We'll need to include these files. So require, you can give the relative path /app/routes. So if you simply write routes and pass a parameter to it, it will include index.js file, because index is looked for by default. There you go. In index file, we'll write module.exports is equal to function, and the parameter that we passed app in the server.js file, it is there. So again, in this file, we are requiring the route file, the main route file. So we'll just cut paste the route node route.js, and again module.exports is written for this function, and the app parameter is consistent to both the files. So module exports the function or data that we have written in the file, so that you can use it like we used for Express, we can use for Mongo as well, like require note the path of file. And now after installing the Mongo on Windows, we can start using the Mongo client in our app. So you have to include require mongodb.mongo client, and we are using body parser for using the post request. And before we initialize our app, we have to connect to a Mongo client, our DB. So we'll wrap this app listen code into our connect method. Once it connects, only then the server should start listening to this port. So Mongo client.connect is the method. It takes a database URL, and that URL we have defined in a separate configuration file, as you can see, app-config and db.js. So we'll just include that file by require. So URL is defined within this file, require app-config db. So connect db.url, you will get that a variable directly from that db constant. So again, it will either throw error or it will return your database. So with both these parameters, you can handle If error return, just do not start this server. It means you can return some client response as well. Maybe not, because server will not start that time. Sorry. So where db is equal to database dot connect. So database that has been returned by Mongo client. So you will use that database for this application nodes underscore API. We have named that. So move into this block. Now that we have a db variable, you can pass it on to next files like routes. So where we have added in our index file, we can pass this db context, and here as well. Okay, then let's start inserting a node. We'll use app.post method. Nodes is the handler. Here we can create a new JSON object, node to insert. It will have two keys, title, request.body.title. It means the request will have form encoded data. So another key will be description, a note, request.body. It will include all the data that has been sent, request.body, and then the key description name. db.collection is database that we have used, and collection is the method for using that collection. And then we insert a document, node to insert. It will again it will again send our response in a callback giving two parameters, error or result. If error, we can send some response to the client that some error has occurred and your database not inserted. Or else we can send them a useful response like the ID of inserted node. Now let's use this post API for inserting a node. Let's edit this key description, the test node and test node description. Send request. Oh, no, the database has been not created. I think there's some error in the app. Yes, there is error. It crashed. Which line number? It's line number 5 in server.js, use of undefined. Okay, on line number 5, yes. It's a basic programming issue. We use the variable before initializing it. So where app is equal to express is defined later. We are just using this variable. It should work now. Let's send request again. Let's check the database. Yes, we have that database, nodes API and collection of nodes, one node inserted, test node. That's great. Let's move on to further. So insert works. We can now get the list of nodes that have already been saved in the database. Let's modify the get request, the handler. Now let's get the list of nodes that have already been saved. db.collection, the collection name nodes, dot find. Find is get finding, it's like select query. And if you do not pass anything in these braces, it means no where condition to find all. And then you have to convert this to array. Again, it will send you items and array in a callback method. If error, we can send some error occur to the client. Else, response.send items. So it will only send the JSON items response. Not found. Okay, let's restart this node daemon. I think for routing it needs a restart. Hello people, it should give a list of objects. I think the response.send has been overwritten by the next line. Let's recheck. Okay, great. We have one item in the list and that's been exposed by this API. So now we have done get list and post item. Now we can move on to get a particular item. If we pass on ID, node/ID, the colon in front of ID makes it a dynamic variable. Const ID to fetch is equal to request.param.id. So request.param is query parameters, request.body form data that has been submitted. We'll copy this ID, key that is used by the Mongo. So find one underscore ID colon new object. So string, we usually pass a string for ID. We have to convert that into an object ID for the Mongo to use that. So we'll require that variable dot object ID, and it requires a string parameter to convert a string into an ID. ID to fetch dot. So find one will have a condition and the result response that can be handled with error and item. So response dot send item. Now let's change this URL ID send. What's the error here? ID to fetch. Yes, response dot send should be there. It is request.params. It's not param. I'm sorry for that. So yes, we are getting this object based on the ID. Okay, what's left? We have done post, we have done get list, we have done a get particular node with the ID in the URL. Now let's try delete. Same, we have to pass on the ID and we have to remove it from the collection. db.collection nodes.remove and remove which ID? ID colon new object ID and whatever we get from the query parameter. ID to remove, we can rename this constant ERR comma item or result. Yes, we're not getting any of this. Let's rename this as well. So again, similar fashion, if error, send some response error, else you can send a success message, node deleted successfully, or item deleted or removed successfully. Use the same ID, delete, send request, and deleting node. If we refresh this, we have no node pending. Need to one for our update method as well. Okay, there was some error in headers of present because we Okay, response.send was overwritten for its notes, posting notes. So we should have one more document here. Okay. Now we have left with one option to update. In the next step, we should be able to update the document. Okay, we are into the last step. We need ID to update. We need the condition, which ID, and the node object, of course. We send a put request with the updated title, test node update. It's put request. Okay, send request. We receive some notification that database has been updated. Node test update. So I hope you have enjoyed it thoroughly, the CRUD operations. We'll keep learning the Node.js. You can comment and you can find some more description about this tutorial. Thank you so much.